Greetings all you maniacs, minds, and crimes. Welcome back to another Warframe weapon showcase. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Sporelacer. Now, I realize on the name of my gun I misspelled launcher, and I'm not spending 15 plat to change it. Anyway, the Sporelacer is a kind of grenade launcher. It's good, but I kind of wish it was a bit more potent. Like it had something extra to it. But these are the parts I use. I know, I'm not using Splat, which is the only loader that anyone should ever use. Spoiler alert, no, it is not. Anyway, this is the build I've been running. Now, this uses shotgun mods. That's a problem, because Blunderbuss is underpowered. And it's just... I feel like this weapon would be better if it was using rifle mods. But whatever. So I'm using Vicious Spread and Blaze for even more damage, and then the damage with heat, and then I'm using the Corrosive element. Corrosive works way better on this weapon. Pack Seeker does nothing here. I'd put Pack's Charge on here, but the charge rate is so slow. And because this is a shotgun, ammo can be a bit of a problem, but with 13 round magazines, it still can be a problem. But I'm playing Nidus for a very good reason, because Nidus helps this weapon. Anyway, so that's what this does. When it fires, it makes like 3 little explosions. And that's kind of it. So let's show it just raw without any buffs or shenanigans. So, you know, it does okay damage. And no, it does not get better with viral and hunter munitions. Well, that's not entirely true. I'll show that, but it's... So, that's alright, you know. But Nuet makes this weapon even better than just, say, you know, slapping a rivet on this weapon, which I do have, by the way. That critical chance makes this thing have something along the lines of, let me actually see. So, yeah, 74% critical chance. Because it's a launcher, you want more crit, or you want an enormous amount of status chance and base damage. That's why the Kuva Ogress is so potent. So anyway, what is going to help this weapon? Well, teaming virulence. I've been playing Nidus a lot recently, and goddamn is the dude amazing. He is so fantastic in many ways. This is a full Umbral build with 3 Forma, so this is quite a lot of investment, and I don't know if everyone would be willing to do this, but 181% power strength, that equates to about 217% more critical chance, which I'm not exactly sure of the numbers here, but that makes this, I think, around 90-ish%. I want to say it's around 95%, something around there. But what I do know is, for sure, is that it makes this weapon hit hard. So wrap them all up, teaming virulence, and just go crazy. So this weapon definitely benefits if you can wrap the enemies up. Nidus, Vauban. Vauban might actually make this weapon even better because he can remove armor. Anyone that could wrap enemies up. Now, does this weapon work with mag? Actually, I haven't tried this. I assume probably. So spawn the enemies again, get some energy. Yeah, that seems to work pretty well. So that's this gun's main problem. The the projectiles that it spawns, the explosion, they just go everywhere, and if they locked onto enemies, if they float up into the air and then came down, this weapon would be even better than it already is. By the way, this weapon does not work very well in Steel Path. Trust me on this, I've tried it. So, this weapon is trash fire, and you should not even use it because it doesn't work in Steel Path, which is something that people don't really play very much. Very realistic expectations. Anyway, let's show this weapon with viral hunter munitions. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to take off Vicious Spread, and then the other one, I'll take off Blaze but keep Vicious Spread so you can see both. I don't think Vicious Spread really affects the accuracy of this weapon very much. So now I will have hunter munitions there, and then to put the viral on, Bridget Blast. So heat viral, hunter munitions, and I'm going to do it with and without teaming virulence. So this is without, of course. So that works fairly well. But having to rely on hunter munitions don't use hunter munitions as a crutch. Please don't. So that's it with without teaming virulence, and yes, me wrapping them up is actually sort of a realistic thing because it's kind of hard not to get teaming virulence. It's kind of hard to get teaming virulence if the enemies aren't wrapped up. I get it, and then I just go crazy. And then the bleeds are quite large. Now, what could DE do to make this weapon better? Well, honestly, either increase the base damage, which I think is just a easier thing. It was just a slightly more elegant way of doing it, or just increase the critical chance. And by the way, I am going to go to Fortuna in a little bit and show you the difference between having Stitch and Splat. Spoiler alert, they're not that different. I have Splat here mostly just for the status chance. So now we're going to put Vicious Spread back on, but we're going to put on hunter munitions, so there is no heat this time. And I'm just going to go straight to the teaming virulence. There really is not much of a difference. Now, the problem with this thing being a launcher is that it's not exactly the easiest to get headshots with, which is kind of a problem. And real quick, let me show you just heat and viral with teaming virulence. This is how I recommend using this weapon. Use a frame that can group enemies up and then just go crazy with it. You see that I'm basically guaranteed crits now with teaming virulence. So viral heat it's okay. Now I'm not saying it's only okay because this thing doesn't have slash. That's not the problem. The problem is that the base damage isn't high enough, or the critical chance or critical multiplier isn't high enough. It's not the fact that it does not have slash. It is not the fact that it does not have slash. I need to hammer this home to some people because they think that every single weapon needs slash to do big damage. Spoiler alert, no. No. Yes, slash helps, but not all the time. And if this thing had a way higher critical multiplier, I'm talking like 6 something, then it might just be way better. If this thing had a higher base critical chance, it would be better. If this thing had like double, triple the damage in the base stats, it would be way better. So this is 739 corrosive. Let me actually show you why the Kuva Ogress is so powerful. So where is my Kuva Ogress? There it is. Now I realize I have magnetic, but look at these numbers. So the critical chance and critical damage are really low, but this status, This plus this. This is why the Kuva Ogress and some launchers are so powerful. Their status chance and their base damage. Not all the time the crit. Now, a weapon that's all crit and a launcher that's also strong is the Exultra. But the Exultra has a very high critical multiplier and 80% critical chance. That's why the Exultra can get away with not having super high base damage, because its critical multiplier is super high. Now, the lens is literally all crit. Absolutely no status. High damage, theoretically, if, the gods are smiling on you. And that's why the lens isn't that fantastic anymore. It's still okay, but it's not, it's not like the Kuva Brahma, which I don't use anymore. So again, you're seeing a trend with extremely powerful launchers. They have either high critical multiplier or critical chance, decent status, and extremely high base damage. That's what makes the launcher great. So when you go back down to the Sporelacer, you see the problem. The base damage isn't high enough, and as is the same with the critical chance and the critical multiplier. The status with this weapon is irrelevant, really, because it multi-hits. So a single pull of the trigger hits multiple statuses. So the status chance really isn't the problem, it's the base damage. So, anyway, the base critical chance on this is 28%. Now, let me actually go ahead and go to Fortuna and show the difference when it comes to having Splat on there. By the way, it's about 4%. And I'll even try and do the math. So, let me quickly just Sporelacer, I'm just going to go Haymaker Grip, because why not? And then, Splat. %35 chance. Okay. Now, you can already do the math, and you'll see that the difference should be around 7-8% critical chance when you're using the shotgun mods. With the rifle mods, this critical chance would be like 95%. DE, we need Prime Blunderbuss for this exact reason. Some shotguns just do not have enough critical chance. So when we go to Stitch, it's not that much of a difference, and you get more status. That's just, I should probably actually put a primary grip on. Doesn't really matter. So, anyway, that's the Sporelacer. I went into a bit more depth about crit and status than I probably should have, but I had to hammer home what makes a very powerful launcher and what makes an okay launcher. A launcher that will do you a good job. This weapon, I was doing the new vaults, and it absolutely shredded the infestation. I mean, of course, they're infested. They're weak, but it served its purpose very, very well. And with Teeming Virulence, having that near guaranteed crit is good. But again, you shouldn't have to use a weapon with very specific frames in order to make it extremely powerful. A weapon should be by itself strong. And this weapon is, but not in the steel path. So I guess it's irrelevant for some people, which is just the dumbest mindset to have. The steel path enemies are chunky, and basically only melee, some beam weapons, and sniper rifles are going to be able to take them down pretty quick. That and the Kuva Comb, but the Kuva Comb is ridiculous. So, and again, this is using Vicious Spread and Blaze. Is this better than the Catch Moon primary and secondary? Definitely. But anyway, Ribbons, I would honestly say critical chance and base damage over everything. This thing has a Ribbons distribution of 1 out of 5, so you're going to have to get a really lucky roll in order for you to get an extremely potent ribbon. Also try to get base heat damage, because you're going to have to replace something here, and Vicious Spread is the only thing I would replace personally. Even though Blaze doesn't add that much more damage, the heat is nice, but it doesn't add that much in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, like I said, that's the Sporelacer. Is it a good weapon? Yes. Yes, it's great. Is it going to absolutely nuke everything with millions of damage, all of that shit? Is it going to be able to keep up with something like the Kuva Ogress? No. And that's very simple. The Kuva Ogress has shit tons of status and an enormous base damage. The Exultra doesn't have that much base damage, but it has a really high critical multiplier and near guaranteed crits at 80%. This is somewhere between. It has decent crit stats, but it's using shotgun mods. Remember, Blunderbuss is only 90% critical chance. When the fuck are we going to get primed Blunderbuss? God damn it, DE. And it doesn't quite have the base damage, and that is the real big thing that is holding this weapon back. The base damage. Because when I was using this thing with Mirage and leveling up, it was laying waste to everything in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught with very few mods. But of course, I was playing Mirage. And if you've played Mirage, you know how powerful she is. She's ridiculous. But a glass cannon. Anyway, the Sporelacer is a very good weapon, especially when you pair it with Teaming Virulence Nidus, which is super easy to do. I mean, all I really did... I mean, if I'm not running Teaming Virulence, I'm running like... where is it? Gladiator Resolve, just for the more health. But Anyway, that's the Sporelacer. Good weapon. Very fun, very potent in a lot of different circumstances. But it could really use a base damage buff. And I understand why DE doesn't want to do that, because if this weapon had like double base damage, it would really, really obliterate everything a little too quickly. But again, I don't want to see this weapon be outshined. Thank you guys so much for watching. And remember, in Trilby, we trust.